Good evening. From the 6++ studio that is my room, I'm Edward Fawcett. We've received reports that the largest Old World tournament so far is currently underway. Here to bring you an editorial on the lists and the emerging metagame is our reporter Edward. Yes, thank you, Edward. We've been looking at the emerging trends of the square-based online tournament, or SBOT for short, and I'm here with some findings on all 16 participating factions. Just to clarify there, Edward, did you say all 16 participating factions? That's right, Edward. Out of the 17 possible factions you could have brought to this tournament, only 16 have been represented so far. However, at this point, 6 of the lists have not been entered, so there could be some late stragglers with some data that we haven't yet seen. First of all, we're looking at Beastmen. So Beastmen, there's only 3 lists here. It's not a huge... There's not a lot of variety with the lists as well. Something that I think is quite interesting is all 3 lists are running the level 4 Brayherd Shaman on the Tusker Chariot with the Hack Tree Fetish, so you're going to be rerolling all your wounds for the magic missiles. You've got the 360-degree line of sight that you get from being on a chariot. Obviously, that's quite a strong package. All of them have gone for that. One of the lists also has 10 chariots, so those were the most important and interesting things I could find about Beastmen so far. Let's have a look at that one. We've got first up Lord of Lustria's list. So you can see here, Lord of Lustria's got 4 characters. All of them are on a Tusker Chariot. And then in the core slot, he's got 2 Tusker Chariots. And in the special, he's got 3 more Razorgore Chariots. This means you've got 10 total chariots, which is pretty nasty, I think. This is a fairly spicy list. Got a couple of casters, gone for 2 level 4 casters. This does mean that he hasn't been able to go for the Lord level melee character, but he has gone for 2 Wargores as well on the Tusker Chariots. Great weapons on there, looking really beefy, and an Elementalism and a Demonology caster in the Sorcerers there as well. Moving on, we've got Bretonnian. Now, Bretonnian, there is a little bit more representation. This is one of the biggest factions. In fact, I think at 10, it is the largest and most represented faction behind Orcs and Goblins. There are 10 lists, 7 of which are Grand Army, 2 are exiles, and 1 is an errantry crusade. So hats off to you for bringing the spicy errantry list. I'm looking forward to seeing how that one plays out. Across those 10 lists, we see 9 of them have the virtue of heroism. 9 of them have the Falcon Horde of Freemund. To briefly explain what those are, the virtue of heroism is an expensive upgrade you can put on a hero or lord level character, and it gives you Killing Blow but also Monster Slayer. So that is usually the silver bullet that the Bretonnian players are bringing to deal with enemy dragons and other scary creatures. The Falcon Horde of Freemund is another thing that you can take to bring to deal with the scary flying monsters. In your command phase, you take a leadership test. This is not limited to once per turn. This is every turn of the game. So if you're going first, your opponent might be shut down, and if you pass the leadership test, then you do get to turn off flying for all models. I believe it's all models, not just all models in... all models in your opponent's army. This is more important if you can take something like Exiles, where you do have access to Veteran on all your characters. This means that you'll be able to re-roll the leadership test, meaning that realistically you are getting that debuff off as and when you need it. Then we've got 2 virtues of the Knightly Temper and 1 virtue of the Ideal. These are both melee-focused, making your characters hit harder. And we've also got 5 Green Knights and 2 of the Elise Duchard. Green Knight is an ethereal character who is bopping around, doesn't start on the table. You roll a die on a 3+, he comes into a wood, and then successive turns after he's been killed, he can come back on a slightly harder roll and a slightly worse off stat line. He's got less wounds. But he's ethereal, so it's very hard to deal with him. And then Elise Duchard is a set caster on a unicorn. However, her dispelling powers are legendary. If you roll any doubles, you do dispel the cast from her, obviously not a fate to dispel. So she is a very powerful defensive piece if you're looking to play some Bretonnians and not get shut down by spells, which I think is very wise, and I'm surprised that only 2 people are playing her. One list has none of the above, and that is an incredible thing to see. They have gone for the Outlaw Wizards and the Bombards, and they are playing Empire but Bretonnians, and I love to see it. The list here that we've got is Sir Emile Simpleton, and this is one of the 2 that's got the both Lady Elise Duchard and then the Green Knight. There is also a Duke on Royal Pegasus. This is your sort of equivalent to a Wyvern. It's only T5, but you can get up to a 2-up save with the Bedazzling Helm, you're also -1 to hit in combat. You have the Falcon Horn of Freeman, which is the aforementioned turns off flying for your opponents. And then we've got a Paladin Battle Standard Bearer. It's always hard to find the points to fit a Battle Standard Bearer in for Bretonnian, weirdly, but they do get it for free, so it is worth taking if you are running a Paladin. In the core, they are running 2 big bricks of the Mounted Knights of the Realm, and they are also running a 26-man unit of Peasant Bowmen with Burning Braziers, which is quite nice for the Troll Horde list that people might have been expecting to see, although there is lower representation of that than you might have expected. Then in the special, there are 2 units of 3 Pegasus Knights, with both of them upgraded to have a First Knight, and otherwise they are just heavy armor, shield, lances. Pegasus Knights are incredible, you probably don't need me to tell you that, but they are skirmishers, they are flying, and they hit surprisingly hard. So, if you're seeing those across the table from you, make sure that you have measured out their charge ranges and you are able to deal with them. Moving on, we have got Chaos Dwarves. Chaos Dwarves were back down to a lower representation. There's only 4 players here playing the Chaos Dwarves. All 4 lists have got a Sorcerer Prophet. 3 of them are on a Bale Taurus, taking them up to T6, and 1 is on a Lamassu, which, if you haven't seen one, do yourself a favour. Google Lamassu. It is a hilariously horrifying model, and I think you will enjoy. 2 of the 4 lists have a Black Orc Warboss on Wyvern. This is a very strong package. You can get up to a 2-up save with a 5-up ward and a 5-up regen, depending on what items you put on there. You fly around with a great weapon, and it's quite a cheap beta character. All 4 lists are running Iron Daemons. That is the Chaos Dwarf equivalent of a steam tank, and it's better because it's in special, so you can take multiple, and it's an organ gun instead of a cannon. So you want to be forwards using those stats as you might do, but you've got the gun that wants to be up close and personal as well. The list here we've got is Grunmuck's list, and Grunmuck is running a Black Orc Warboss, as described before, and a Sorcerer Prophet. This is a Demonology caster with Armour of Destiny and Mantle of Stone on a Bale Taurus, so that does take you up to T7 with a 4-up ward, so that Sorcerer Prophet probably isn't going to be falling over anytime soon. And then the Black Orc Warboss has got a Talisman of Protection and Trollhide Trousers. You've probably seen this combination before, but combined with the shield, he's got a 2-up save against shooting, a 3-up save against melee, and a 5-up ward and a 5-up regen. In core, there is a bunch of Black Orcs. I believe that is a unit of 17, plus upgraded to have a big red raggedy flag for +1 weapon skill, taking them weapon skill 5. They also have +1 combat resolution from that brick, which makes them quite a tanky and difficult unit to deal with, something that can maybe go toe-to-toe with a dragon for a couple of turns, maybe not win, but might out-combat res it depending on how they're deployed. We have got 13 with hand weapons and shields, and we've got 4 with great weapons, just to provide a little bit more of a punch there using the mob rule. Then we've got some units of hobgoblins, 1 unit of 10 and 1 unit of 27. Both with short bows. These are incredibly cheap and disposable, and they are very valuable in Chaos Dwarves. If you haven't been looking at running them, you definitely want to pick that one up. We've also got the requisite unit of 10 Infernal Guard, hand weapons and heavy armors, and Fireglaves with shield as well. You have to take 1 unit of Infernal Guard. Fireglaive are 4 points per model, and they give you 1 shot at Strength 4, AP 1, and also effectively a halberd in combat. They are aggressively fine. I'm not sold on them, but they can do some real work. In the special, we've got a single Iron Demon. It's very difficult to fit a second one in, and it has been upgraded to be Hellbound. Hellbound means that it goes from having causing fear to terror, and you get a 6-up ward against non-magical attacks, plus once per game, you do get to re-roll a single misfire artillery die. If you misfire on the steam tank, you don't actually you don't roll the misfire table, you do just take a wound, so much less of a disadvantage than some other pieces, because if you do misfire while you're hellbound, you, I believe, roll twice and take the worst result. In the rare, we've got some Hobgoblin Wolf Riders who are possibly the best light cavalry in the game. They are incredible, and they're basically Goblin Wolf Riders, but without Impetuous. Very nice. They've got Feigned Fight, Reserve Move, and they've been upgraded to have a boss, just to give them a little bit more leadership reliability. Moving on, we've got Chaos Demons, and we are languishing down here at only 2 lists. Both lists, however, are running a Khorne Bloodthirster. Given the small population, I wonder if both the players have talked about their list beforehand. Might well have done. Obviously, the Honest Wargamer Discord and the other Discords are fairly tight-knit communities. You do see people discussing their lists quite frequently. Both lists are running the Khorne Bloodthirster, but one list is running a level 4 Tzeentch Demon Prince, the other running 2 units of Tzeentch Flamers with level 3 casters. This means that both, despite being Khorne predominantly lists, they do have some magic protection and magic output. Tzeentch casters do have access to quite a tasty magic missile. I believe it's a 18-inch range, strength 4, AP 1, D6 plus 3 shots, something in that ballpark. Do let me know if I've got that one wrong in the comments. The list with the Demon Prince that isn't running the Tzeentch Flamers is running 4 Beasts of Nurgle, which are just quite a tanky and efficient unit. All 2 legs here has got a Bloodthirster and a Herald of Khorne in his character slots. In the core, we're seeing Bloodletters, 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 and Furies. Furies, 3 units of 5, are an incredible skirmishing piece, and they are very, very efficient. There's a big unit of Blood Crushers. They are quite pricey, but they do hit reasonably hard, so definitely worth keeping an eye on those if they're across the table from you. And then, as discussed, the 2 units of Flames of Tzeentch. These are really interesting. They're level 3 wizards. They have Elementalism, and one of them has Power Vortex as well, so quite upgraded there. The Sergeant of the unit, as it is such, is 142 points as an upgrade, so quite an upgrade there to see in the rare slot. Dark Elves. This is the faction that we don't have any data on. If one of the 6 lists that has been added late on is playing Dark Elves, please do let me know. I would love to have a look at that one, but I think we might just be seeing a list, unfortunately, a tournament without any of the Dark Elves. Dwarves, not Chaos Dwarves, just the proper Dwarves. We've got a little bit more representation here. We've got 8 lists. Of those 8 lists, 4 of them have Anvils. 6 of those lists have Gyrocopters. 3 lists have Grudge Throwers, but only 1 list has Gyros and Grudge Throwers. So I'm seeing quite a split in the philosophy behind how the armies are built. Whether you want to go for a more turtled up faction with the Grudge Throwers and maybe an Anvil as well, or if you're going for the Gyrocopters and you're more leaning on trying to take some agency in the game as well. Time will tell as to which is more effective, but my money is on the Grudge Throwers. Those things are incredibly frustrating to deal with if you've got any monsters. 7 of the lists have Iron Drakes, but only 1 player isn't bringing any, which is honestly more than I was expecting to see. 3 players are running the max 3 units, 4 players are running only 2 units, and only 2 players are taking big units of 10. So 1 player is using 2 units of 10, and 1 is using a unit of 10 and a unit of 5. This is surprising to me. I know people really rate the Trollhammer torpedoes. I think you should give the bigger units a go. The actual shots from the rest of the guns are terrifying. Their standard shoot is so hard to deal with. It makes Dwarves a real threat when you're trying to deal with that turtle in the center. The list we've got here is Richie Amphlett. If you want to hear more about Richie's philosophy behind building lists or how he plays, we did an interview just a few days ago on the channel. That will be linked up somewhere over here, I'm sure. So this is his latest iteration, and we're going to see whether it works out well for him. He's had some concerns about the hammerers, but we'll give them some proper play testing. So, character-wise, we've got an Anvil of Doom. This has now been upgraded to have the Might of Rune of Might, Rune of Cleaving, and Rune of Preservation, making it tankier and actually hit back in combat quite well. This is because it can get tied up by something that's a little bit beefy, that isn't going to kill it, but is going to stop it from casting for most of the game. You've also got an Engineer and a Thane as well. The Engineer is the general because all dwarf characters have the same leadership, or so I'm told, and that means that you can take something, put it towards the back of the army near the Grudge Throwers and feel fairly safe about not having it, lose points for being the general. Then the Thane. The Thane is the Battle Standard Bearer. He's incredibly tanky. He's got a 2-up save. I believe it's a 2-up rerollable save, and he is beefy on the shield bearers, and he does have +2 combat res as a battle stand bearer and having the Rune of Battle as well. In the core, we're seeing a fairly big brick of Dwarf Warriors. There's 17 there. This is where the Battle Standard Bearer goes. They've got a Rune of Battle. This is quite a tanky combat res brick. And then there's a unit of 16 Rangers as well. They are upgraded to the 9s. They've got great weapons, they've got shields, they've got crossbows, and they've got throwing axes. All of these things are useful at different times. This is a unit that you can deploy in a line, you can stand and shoot with, you can scout. They are very, very good. In the special, we've got 2 Grudge Throwers. One's upgraded to have a Rune of Forging. One is not got any upgrade as well. It's just nice to have magical attacks more than anything else, and I believe Rune of Forging is something to do with rerolling misfires, but you might have to double-check that one. Then there is a unit of 10 Hammerers. These things absolutely slap if they get the fight that they want. However, they are dwarves, and they move very slowly, so interested to see how Richie uses them this time round. In the rare, we've got 2 units of Iron Drakes, and this is the list I was talking about that is taking 2 big units of 10. They are very, very effective. It's very hard to charge them because there's a lot of Strength 5 AP 1 that doesn't take penalties to hit when they're doing anything, basically, apart from firing at long range. You'll also see the Cinderblast bombs and the Trollhammer torpedo. Trollhammer torpedo, no, but the Cinderblast bombs are very effective at standing and shooting. It'll only be hitting on 3s. They're not Dwarf crafted, but it is a lot of shots, and it can do a real number, and it will gain you combat res, which is a big way that Dwarves will win fights when they're looking at those sort of 10 model units stood at the front lines, standing and shooting. Moving on, then, we have got Empire up next. And Empire is another one that's quite well represented. We've got 9 lists for the Empire. 7 lists have at least one Hellblaster, which I think is probably correct. Hellblasters are such an efficient shooting piece if you can get the most out of them. There are 15 Wizard Lords across the 9 lists, though. So instead of having less than 1 per list for the Hellblasters, you've got more than 1 per. That's, 1.6, 1.7 wizards per list. Some lists have 3, some lists have 1, but I believe every list has a Wizard Lord. However, there are only 10 cannons across the 9 lists, whereas you could be running, that we could have seen 27 realistically. I think people are missing a trick on this. Empire shooting is so efficient, and I would definitely like to see some more cannons. Not across the table from me, but just in Empire list building. 5 lists have got Demigryph Knights. Obviously, these are a really efficient unit, but you might find that you struggle to fit them in if you're going for a really heavy shooting platform. And 5 lists have Demigryph characters as well. Now, only 4 of those have Drilled Knights for them to join, which is, I think, a really nice bit of tech. What you can do is you can put the Demigryph character at the front of the unit, put the rest of the unit in marching column, move very fast. On your next turn, because of Drilled, you'll be able to charge from a marching column and reform, and your character, the Demigryph character, will be able to get in and do the work where it would have been hard to deliver them before. Only 2 Imperial Griffins is really interesting. I think the Imperial Griffin is an incredible unit. It is the Wyvern equivalent for Empire, and I think they need something that's quite mobile and reasonably tanky and quite killy. You can use it to add to combat res. It can keep up with your knights. Obviously, it's a beefy unit as well, so you're not too scared about it. There's lots of ways to give it a ward save. So, yeah, looking forward to seeing adaptations here. I think more Empire players will start using Imperial Griffins despite the cost of them. You might have heard Val talk about Morpheus's list. This is indeed the same Morpheus. He is running the absolute gun line to end all gun lines. So, there are 3 engineers. There is a general on the Imperial Griffin with full plate, Charm Shield, Silverhorn, White Cloak. The Charm Shield is a little bit of tech because he has played against a High Elf player who Val's unmakinged his ward save. So having that just to give him a little bit more punch, or a little bit more defense, I should say, is quite a nice adaptation. And it's only 5 points, so it's 3 points more than a regular shield, so quite a cute change there. Also got a Wizard Lord. That is a level 4 Illusion Caster with double Power Scroll and Lore Familiar. This is all about getting off the spells that you need. If your dragon is bearing down on the Wizard Lord is going to probably be able to stop that. Obviously, we're starting to see people put Magic Resist on dragons because that's the most important thing to protect in your list to make sure it can do its job. But I think this is a really efficient 230-point unit that's capable of really shoring up the weaknesses of the list. In core, we've got a lot of chaff. We've got some Scout Archers, units of 5. We've got some 10 model units of crossbows. They do chip away, and honestly, they're quite nice at dealing with big monsters. They're only wounding on 6s, but they've got Armor Bane too, so if you do get a wound through, you do probably chip that wound away, getting through the save quite nicely. Then we've got 2 units of 10 Veteran State Troops with Light Armor and Thrusting Spears. You've got to have some sort of, foot presence that can sit at angles or do screening purposes, or even just try and mop up something in the front lines that the guns haven't quite finished off. In the special, we're seeing 3 great cannons. These cannons are great. They are much better than any other cannons in the game as far as I've seen. They are, as from memory, Strength 10, AP 2, Armor Bane 3, so if you roll a 6 to wound, you will be taking away a save of everything in the game. And they are D3 damage or D3 plus 1. Very efficient. Definitely worth a look in if you're playing Empire and you're not skewing heavily into them. They're a very efficient unit, especially if you're running them with engineers nearby. Then we've got 2 mortars. Mortars are just quite nice. They are a blast template weapon. Not too much to say about these. This is a new change. I haven't seen Jack running these before, but I'm interested to see how it gets on with them. And also the Hellblaster Volley Gun. We've got 2 of those. These are real workhorses. If you can protect them, they will absolutely chew through your opponent's army. Ask me how I know. I'll tell you about my round 1 in the square-based event later on in another video. Now we're on to the High Elves. High Elves, there's only 4 High Elf players. Definitely a faction that's fallen out of favour a little bit from the start, where everyone went, dragons are great, but actually the rest of the list is not so super exciting. Speaking of dragons, every list is running dragons. One list has 2. One list has a dragon and a Frostbite Phoenix, and 2 lists have just a single dragon. Only one. 3 of the 4 lists have Sisters of Avalon, which I think is one of the best sort of shooting units that you can get hold of. One of the lists has a 20 sister brick, which I think is very interesting, and I'm quite excited to see how that list performs. Then we've got Twiglet 26's list. So this is a list that's sort of along the lines of when I was looking at High Elves at the start of the edition, the sort of choices that I might have made. I hadn't been looking at Dragon Princes, but they're a beefy unit if you can control them. So there is an Archmage, level 4 Illusion with Silvery Wand, Dragon Slaying Sword, Cedar Rebirth, Anointed of Asuryan. So this means that you do get... you're 5 out of 6. You're probably going to be getting the... Starting off with the Archmage, Illusion, level 4, Silvery Wand, Dragon Slaying Sword, Seed of Rebirth, Anointed of Asuryan. So what this means is you're probably going to be getting Spectral Doppelganger, and you're going to be taking your 50-point Monster Slayer sword, and you're going to be flying into the closest dragon, or pretending you're going to, and using it for space control, trying to cast your Spectral Doppelganger, and if you get it off, hopefully rolling a single 6 on there, getting it through that ward save, and killing the very expensive dragon that your opponent has brought. This is quite a cute item, and I like it as well. It's not as good, but you can fly the Phoenix into a other unit and still do some work with it. It's not as good because the Dragon Slaying Sword is just plain stats, but it is definitely something that can pick up smaller units without too much fear. Then we've got a Prince on the full plate Star Dragon. We've got Dragon Helm for +1 to save, Cedar Rebirth for a regen, Talisman of Protection for the ward save, Pure of Heart for dealing with the Scream lists, actually. So Pure of Heart is a really nice upgrade. What that does is it lets you use your models in your command range can use your leadership as if you were the general, but it's not using Inspiring Presence. So this does shut down some of the debuffing that you get from the Scream list. So quite a nice little adaptation there. And also it's free, so why wouldn't you take it? In the core, we've got a couple of units of Illyrian Reavers, 1 big brick of the Silver Helms, 11 strong. That's quite nice. I haven't seen people playing with that large unit, but I'm interested to see how it gets on. In special, there's a unit of 6 Dragon Princes. They are beefy, they hit hard, they do have Impetuous, but just point them at something you want them to kill and that'll be fine. In the rare, we've got a Lion Chariot of Change. Try that again. In rare, we've got a Lion Chariot of Trace, and we've also got a unit of 7 Sisters of Avalon with the Ruby Ring of Ruin. I really like this. When you aren't able to get the Ruby Ring on a suitable character in your character slot, I really like having it on the Sisters, because they are going to be trying to stick to the outsides of the board, dealing with the other light things, putting some firepower down, and hopefully not dying. Then we've got Lizardmen. Lizardmen, there are 3 lists, and across those 3 lists, we've got 140 Skinks, 4 Carnosaurs, and 1 Slan. It's the most diverse faction for all of the small number of lists, I think. We might have to double check me on this one, but across all lists, each of them have, one of. So there's 1 list that has Cold Ones, there's 1 list that has Troglodons, there's 1 list that has Pterodons, there's 1 list that has Rhipidactyls, and there's only 1 list that has Croxidors as well, which makes it quite interesting that the all lists have a single unit of 16 Saurus as well. Obviously, Saurus is a unit that you have to take, but I find it quite interesting that they've all landed on 16 as the unit number that you go for. I guess it's 4x4, it's cheap combat res. Maybe you can do something with it there. List-wise, we've gone for Boss Grand, and this is a double Carnosaur list. I think double Carnosaurs are very strong, and I'd like to see it here. So we've got a Saurus, Old Blood, and Scar Veteran, both of them on a Carnosaur, and we've also got the Slan Mage Priest, level 4, high magic, lore familiar. So this is, you're going to pick your spells. In the core, we've got the Brick of Saurus, we've got the 3 units of 10 Skinks, 1 unit of 11, and the most exciting thing, 500 points of Cold One Riders. I think that's so fun. There's a big unit of 8, and there's a smaller unit of 5. These do have stupidity, which is a real hindrance, but they are the most dense attacks per per 30 mil base you can get in the game, as far as I'm aware, especially because you can combo it with high magic. The combination is you cast the spell that gives the unit +1 attack. You get +1 attack not only on the Cold One rider, which takes it to 3 attacks up top. The Cold One itself also gets an extra attack, taking it to 3 attacks there. And there are also other combinations like giving them Frenzy that you can go for, but I don't believe they've gone for it in this list. Moving on, we've got Ogre Kingdoms. We are still languishing in the doldrums here with only 3 lists, but all 3 lists do have a character on monster, Stonehorns or Thundertusks. All of the lists are running at least 1 unit of Mournfang. One list has got 2 units of 4, the other 2 have a single unit of 4. And what I thought was quite interesting, that is across the 3 armies, there is a different magic banner on the Mournfang. So one of them is running the Razor Standard, one of them is running the Rampaging banner, and then 2 armies are running the Cannibal banner. So the list that's running the Cannibal banner is also running, I believe, the Razor Standard as well. Only one list is running Man-Eaters with Poison Pistols, which I think is interesting because that is a very efficient unit. However, it is very expensive. There's also one list that is running an Iron Blaster, which is... people definitely rate them highly. I've had issues playing them. I find they misfire a lot for me, but they are still a beefy chariot afterwards if they do not die. So this list is by, I believe it's pronounced Ors. Apologies if I got that wrong. This is a level 4 Slaughtermaster and gone for battle magic there. And then a Tyrant on a Stonehorn with Death Cheater. Death Cheater's great. You can once per game make your opponent reroll a single successful wound. This is nice. It's a 5-point upgrade. Basically what it does is if your opponent has Monster Slayer and they roll a 6 to wound, you just say, oh no, can you re-roll that one for me, please, buddy? Then we have got the Tenderizer and the Talisman of Protection. The Tenderizer is the big, bad, expensive magic 2-hander weapon that you might see in the Ogre list. It's, I think, 70 points. It does hit hard, but that feels a little bit like an eggs in one basket. However, I would like to see how much damage that egg can do. In core, we've got Gobbler Fighters, just 1 unit of 20, 2 units of 4 Iron Guts, and 1 unit of 3 Ogres. Obviously, you do have to run Ogres, so taking a single min unit there with no upgrades. In the special, we have got that unit of Man-Eaters I was talking about. So you can see here they've gone for Poisoned Attacks and Vanguard of the 2 special rules that they get to pick for free. One has got Iron Fist with Light Armor, one's got Great Weapon with Light Armor, one's got Light Armor with Heavy Armor, Iron Fist with Heavy Armor, and one is the Captain as well. The Captain has, I don't believe it says here, oh no, this is a much bigger unit than I thought. My apologies. So that is a unit of 5. One is upgraded to be the Captain, and they have the Dragonhide banner as well. They also have the aforementioned 4 Mournfang Cavalry. This is with the Cannibal Totem, which gives them a regen save. Quite a nice beefy unit. They hit very hard on the charge, impact hits galore, and great weapons as well. And it's hard to chew through them when they've got that Cannibal Totem, but it's harder for them to run things down as well. Orcs and Goblins, this is our number 1 in terms of quantity of lists being played. So at time of recording, we've got 9 Grand Army, 1 Nomadic War, and, that should be 2 Nomadic War, and 1 Troll Horde as well. All of the Grand Army lists have Fanatics. One of them has 12, which is 4 units of 3. 3 lists have 9, 4 units of 6, and 1 unit only has 3 Fanatics. But it is split across 2 units of Night Goblins, which I think is an interesting decision to go for. 9 of the 12 lists have a Wyvern Boss. 5 lists have Doom Divers, that's 5 out of the 9 of the Grand Army, but only 3 lists outside of the Nomadic War have Boar Boys. I think that's very interesting. Boar Boys are an incredible unit. They are so cheap. They are 18 points for a very beefy, very fast, quite punchy unit that you can upgrade to your heart's desire. And I think we might see more of those coming around later on. This is Rebecca's list. Rebecca is playing Nomadic War, and she is going Chariots, Chariots, Chariots. So there is a Black Orc Big Boss who has got the Battle Standard Bearer with War Banner and Standard on the Chariot as well. This is a unit that I've been using to great success. It is absolutely fantastic. It gives you 4 static combat res, 5 if you call a war with that model as well. It's just so solid and reliable. It will go into combat. It will, win you combats, especially if you're going into Undead or something similar. Then we've got another Black Orc Big Boss. This is on another Chariot, and we're talking no upgrades there, just great weapons across the board, keeping it cheap. We've also got an Orc War Boss on a... We've also got an Orc War Boss on a War Boar. This is the Warlord because you have to have a regular Orc War Boss to unlock the Boar Boys in core. This means that she's gone for a Leadership 8 War Boss who is just going to go sit in some Boar Boys and probably run around the table and absolutely ruin some things. Gone for a Cavalry Spear and Charm Shield as well, keeping it as cheap as possible, but still having some decent punch and being fairly tanky. Finally, there is a level 4 Orc Weird Knob Warboy on a War Boss, a War Boar. No upgrades here, just going for War Magic. Hopefully you get, the spell that gives you an increased range on your charge. If not, no worries, there are other good spells in there as well. Cool, we have a 515 point unit, which I think is the most expensive unit we've seen at all across the entire event. So this is 21 Boar Boys, upgraded to have Dethinkenorc's hat on the boss. That means that they lose the Impetuous rule and they have control of being able to move around. And there's also the big red raggedy flag. This again gives you +1 combat res, and it also gives you +1 to your weapon skill, so it takes them to weapon skill 4. They are big uns, taking them up to strength 4, strength 5 on the charge if you're talking about the cavalry spears, and they are beefy with a 3-up save. In special, there are 3 Orc Boar chariots. 2 of them are just the regular 2 boars, 2 crew. One of them is a 3rd crew as well. No frenzy on there, but they are still, heavy chariots and quite cheap for what you're getting. And in rare, there are 3 Black Orc chariots as well. So each of those is avoiding the standard, which I think is the correct choice. You don't want to give up those free victory points. And they are 2 Black Orcs with Furious Charge and great weapons for 4 attacks, a couple of boards on the front, and a lot of impact hits. This is quite a beefy list, and it absolutely wants to full send towards you. If you get charged by this list, you are in trouble. Skaven. Skaven. Rumours of the Dwellers from the Undercity have populated, and we've got 2 lists. I am very keen to see how they are going to be doing. I'm looking at doing Skaven in the not-so-distant future. Across those 2 lists, we've got 17 Jezzails. That's a unit of 9 and a unit of 8. Quite interesting to see that they've gone for the very efficient shooting there. They both have a Grey Seer, and both those Grey Seers have battle magic. Both lists have a Hell Pit Abomination as well. One list, which is the one that I'm going to be showing you in a second, has 25 Gutter Runners with poisoned attacks and throwing weapons, and I think that's the direction that Skaven players want to be taking. The list that we're looking at here is Warlord Dakuma. So we're starting off with a Grey Seer, Battle of Magic, level 4, Wand of Jet, Ruby Ring of Ruin. Realistically, probably going to be chucking out a couple of fireballs and maybe a Pill of Flame at every turn. There is an Assassin and a Chieftain. The Chieftain is the Battle Standard Bearer. Getting those rerolls for a cowardly faction like Skaven is quite nice. And also a Warlock Engineer, which is a level 2 caster with Elementalism. Now, it's going to be hard to get the spells that you want, but if you do, because there are a lot of good spells in Elementalism, I think you'd be quite pleased to Plague of Rust or give your units a ward save. There's a lot of good stuff that you can get in there. Even the Magic Missile is very efficient. In the core, you've got the 2 units of Clan Rats. One has got a Rattling Gun, and the other has got a Rattling Gun as well, because those are the most efficient shooting platforms. I'm definitely toying around with not spending points on taking Rattling Guns, but I think that needs more testing. And then Dakuma's also gone for 2 units of Giant Rats. Nope, sorry, 3 units of Giant Rats. And you'll see that they only cost 93 and 96 points. But you still you get a hilarious amount of models. So you've got 28 Giant Rats and then 1 Packmaster, which is upgraded to a Master Molder twice. 3 times, I should say. It's an incredible amount of bodies, and I think that's an effective strategy for Skaven to gum up the board. Then within the special, we've got 2 units of 10 and 1 unit of 5 Gutter Runners, a unit of 8 Wartblock Jezzails, and a single Hell Pit Abomination. The Hell Pit is a little bit squishy. It's only T5 and only has a regen, no other save. But it is also probably important to have some sort of big threat to tie up your opponent's attention and, if possible, get into combat and just cause some carnage. Moving on to Tomb Kings. Tomb Kings, we've got 11 lists here, actually slightly more Bretonnians than I miscounted before. So we've got 5 Grand Army, 5 Mortuary Cult, and 1 Royal Host. Always fun to see, someone going out on their own and doing something a little bit different. Only 6 of the lists have got dragons, but one of the lists does have 2 dragons, so, dragons are pretty solid still. Every list, however, does have Tomb Scorpions. There's 24 total across 11 lists, which is an average of 2.2 per list. So if you're only running 1, you've got to step your Tomb Scorpion game up. They are very efficient units. We have got a list by Kazandu, and we're talking about it, the double dragon list. We've got a High Priest on dragon, we've got a Tomb King on dragon. Interesting, the High Priest has gone for illusion. There's a lore familiar, so you can pick your spells. There is a serpent staff and a potion of speed and a warding splint. So this is a melee caster. I like the melee caster in theory. I don't know how well it actually works. It's quite a hard spell to get off. I don't think there's really anything here that's boosting the level of casting, but I like to see it. I'm a big fan of Spectral Doppelganger and just smack people in the face by your old dusty wizard. Then we got the Tomb King. It's as you might expect, Armor of the Ages. Potion of Toughness as well, interesting because it falls off at the end of the turn, but a Talisman of Protection as well. And this is just a beefy dragon that's quite cheap, quite efficient. Moving into the core, we've got 3 Sepulchral Stalkers, 10 Skeleton Archers, 6 Skeleton Chariots in 1 unit. That's quite a beefy unit. And then we've got a couple of Tomb Scorpions in special and 2 Necrosphinxes. Even post-FAQ, having changed it so you can't make all of your attacks with their cannon attached to the tail, you still get to really do an absolute beating with those things. They fly. They're incredible. They're so good. 2 is great. It's a shame, I think, that you can't fit 3 in. Not for your opponents, but they're very, very good. Moving on to the rest of the undead, we've got the vampire counts. 7 lists for the vampire counts, and across those 7 lists, we've got 26 screams. That's an average of 3.6 screams per list. That's quite a lot of screams. There's a single dragon in there, so my hat's off to the hero running that. 2 Ghoul Kings on Terrorgeists. Now, those are dragon-ish, but squishier, but killier. And they have a scream, so it's interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing how that list does. And there are 7 Mortis engines as well. Although I don't believe there is 1 per list. There are a couple of duplicates in there. We have T-Commander's list here. So T-Commander's running a Master Necromancer, level 4, Necromancy, Mortis Engine, Skull Staff. You've probably seen this loadout before. It's a very efficient loadout. It's also the General, and it's quite hard to deal with. Then we've got a Vampire Count, which is a level 2 caster upgraded to be a level 3 by the Master of the Black Arts. That's the vampire-specific upgrades. A Zombie Dragon, and also Illusion, Lore Familiar, Talisman of Protection, and Great Weapon. So, not spending points on a fancy weapon to go fishing for Spectral Doppelganger, but this is an absolute beatstick. Again, I'm not convinced that people are going to be getting Spectral Doppelganger off, or that it's a successful strategy to go for because it's a bit swingy. But if it does go off, you will get absolutely ground up into paste, because that is a lot of great weapon attacks coming straight to the dome. In the core, we have got some Crypt Ghouls, very efficient unit there. We've got Direwolves. We've got a big brick of Graveyard with hand weapons and shields. They've got a War Banner for a little bit more combat res, and then there's a unit of 35 zombies as well. Graveguard, I might have liked to see great weapons there in a bigger unit, but it's probably being used more of an anvil than anything else in the list, just to tie up the list for the rest to go out and do its work, scream its way through, or, well, there's only 1 scream in here, and absolutely chip away. Also a White Lord with Battle Standard Bearer, I should mention as well. In special, we've got 4 Fellbats, nice and cheap, just a really frustrating unit to have to deal with, and a big brick of Blood Knights. I really like to see this. You don't see Blood Knights very often because Terrorgeists take up the same point slots, but they are tanky. There's 8 in the squad, so they're big enough to absorb a lot of damage, and then you come around with your Necromancer and resurrect them. They are beefy. Very, very good there. Quite exciting. I want this list to do well compared to the Scream lists. We've got Warriors of Chaos. There are 7 lists for Warriors, which is less than I expected, actually. But only 1 list is running Chaos Warriors. Core is mostly a mix of Forsaken, Chaos Knights, and various Marauders. There's also, obviously, the War Dogs in there as well. 5 lists are running a Dragon Lord. 1 is running a Manticore Lord. But 1 is not running a Lord at all, which is an interesting development for Chaos. 7 Sorcerer Lords, so every list has at least 1. And all across those, there are 5 with Battle Magic, 1 that has Dark Magic, and 1 with Demonology. Across the list as well, there are 22 Dragon Ogres, which is a fair amount of Dragon Ogres. Surprisingly, most of them are in multiple units of 3 or 4. There are some individual models in there as well, but honestly, the majority of people are running them in big bricks and doing work with them, so that's interesting to see. Looking at the list, we have got Schmuck's list. So we've got a Chaos Lord who is running a Chaos Dragon. This is Enchanting Aura. That's an Aura of Strikes Last. Ogre Blade to be a real slapper. 2 times Favour of the Gods, just in case you get bad rolls on your Favour of the God rolls. Paymaster's Coin, once per game you get to reroll your hits, and Mark of Nurgle, making it very hard for your opponents to hit into you. This is the Beatstick Lord. You might be expecting to see this one. Got a Sorcerer Lord, level 4, Battle Magic, Mark of Tzeentch, Chaos Steed, Spell Familiar, and Infernal Puppet. An Infernal Puppet is a aura of, I believe, 24 inches. If your opponent is inside it, they roll their spells at casting with 3d6 and drop the highest, and it does make it more likely for them to miscast and also just less likely to get spells off, so it's quite nice defense there, while also being quite punchy. Chaos don't get a lot of casting, or a lot of ranged damage, I should say. So having a cast that can have Fireball and also have the Tzeentch spell, which is just a beta, strength 4, AP 2, lots of shots. It's good. In the core, we have got the Chaos Warriors, which is interesting. It's just a unit of 7 with Mark of Corn and Great Weapon, so it's a cheap-ish blender unit. We've got some core Chaos Warhounds, some Forsaken, which are a better blender, and we've got some Marauder Horsemen, which are also blenders, although these ones are Mark of Tzeentch, so they'll be joined by the Sorcerer Lord. In the special, we have, as I was talking about, got a unit of 4, a unit of 3, and a single unit of 1 Dragon Ogre. Just very efficient monstrous cavalry. It's nice to see them out in force, and I hope that I don't have to play into this list. Moving on, we've got Wood Elves. There are 8 lists for Wood Elves, and they're quite well represented. Honestly, better than I was expecting them to be. Each list has a behemoth character, so that's either a Dragon Lord or a Treeman Ancient. One of the lists does have a Treeman Ancient and a Dragon Lord, and that list is speaking to me. That's how I like to play my games. 14 Sisters of the Thorn across 6 lists, which is a little terrifying. Sisters of the Thorn, they're a unit, they have a bound spell that they cast at level 2, but you get to pick it, so whether that's Pillar of Flame or Plague of Rust, you can be a bit flexible with it. I believe you just pick that at the table. I don't think you have to pick it beforehand. On the arrow debate, interestingly, it's mostly Hagbane arrows. There is a smattering of Arcane Bodkins, which I think is interesting because it's just guaranteed getting through armor, or much more likely to get through armor. But there is one unit of Swift I can't say that word. We're just going to leave that in. Swift Shiver, and it's on a unit of Warps. I assume these are character hunters because they come in, they get to shoot 2 shots each and hopefully snipe out a Wizard Lord who stood on his own. Be interesting to see how that one plays out, and if anyone does have experience against it, let me know. I'm looking forward to hearing about it. There are also 4 rare Treemen. This isn't particularly noteworthy. I just like Treemen. The list we're looking at is Denarius's list. Denarius is running a Glade Lord, and it's on a Forest Dragon, as you might expect. Great Weapon, Befuddlement of Mischiefs, Annoyance of Netlings. That means you're -1 weapon skill if you're in combat with them, and -1 to hit against them in a challenge. Armor of Silvered Steel, Obsidian Lodestone, Talisman of Protection. So just making a beefy challenge Glade Lord, which is interesting. I think that can probably tie up the Chaos Lord and Dragon for quite a while, and do a fair number on it itself. Then we've got a Spell Singer, so this is only a level 2 caster, but we also have a Spell Weaver, who's a level 4, and we've got double battle magic here. Oaken Stave is plus range and plus cast to your dispel. I think if you're within range of a wood and you're holding the Oaken Stave, you get plus to your dispel rolls. Also, Ruby Ring of Ruin on the Spell Weaver there. Quite nice. I might have liked to see it on the Spell Singer if we're using the Spell Weaver more defensively, but I'm sure there is a reason for having it this way around. In the core, we've got a couple of unit of Deepwood Scouts. The 1 per 1,000 is being used to full effect here with Hagbane tips. A unit of 5 Glade Guard, because you legally have to. A unit of Glade Riders, and they have got the Banner of Midsummer's Eve, Hagbane tips, Cavalry Spear. They're going out and they're doing a fair amount of work for this list. Really what they're doing is buying time more than anything, because in the special there are 3 units of Sisters of the Thorn. They are running the the upgrades you need, the Handmaiden of the Thorn, the Standard Bearer, they've got the Javelins. They're probably going to be sitting back and casting Pillar of Flame. This list could theoretically be running 5 Pillars of Flame at you, which is a fairly terrifying thing to have to deal with. In the rare, we've got a single Great Eagle. Great Eagles are money. They're just so good. But there's a real... It's difficult to fit too many in, because by the time you've put in your Dragon Lord, your level 4 caster, your 3 units of Sisters of the Thorn, it kind of gets a little bit expensive and you start to run out of points. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this little bit of a breakdown. Let me know if there's anything that you want me to specifically look at. I will be keeping an eye on stats and interesting developments of the Square-based online tournament as the weeks go on. This is a 6-week tournament. I'm not saying I'm going to bring you a video every week, but I might bring you a video every week. Let me know what you want to see. Thanks for watching. See you around.